All right then, everyone. So let me introduce the next speaker we've got this afternoon on the agenda. That is Andy Mulcahy. He's Strategy and Insight Director at IMRG. If you're not familiar with those initials, they're a membership community that is the voice of e-tail in the UK. I definitely recommend their Thursday webinars for kind of a weekly injection of insight and research and kind of expert thoughts. So Andy himself, he's worked at the heart of online retail since 2010, researching and producing reports on trends and developments affecting the sector. And that's what you're going to get today. You're going to hear some of those insights that he's researched, okay? During that time, he's developed strong knowledge in multiple areas with particular expertise in Black Friday. So, perhaps there'll be a little touch on that here today. So today he's going to take us through the latest industry benchmarks, what's been going on, and offer some thoughts on that. So please put your hands together for Andy Mulcahy.
Cheers. Hello, everybody. Thanks for coming. I won't bother introducing myself because that was probably better than I could do. But I will introduce my company. So IMRG is a trade body for online retail in the UK. So what we do is we track online sales, right? So we benchmark all sorts of things. Every week we show what's going on in the market, as in, is revenue up, is traffic up, et cetera, et cetera. And we can filter it in all sorts of different ways to give some useful insight. We also track lots of other stuff across websites, and I'm going to show you a little bit of that today. So I'm going to take you through this, which is what results should you be looking for in a tough market. So I'll give you some benchmarks, basically. Some of them will make you feel bad about yourselves. Some of them will make you feel good about yourselves. Don't shoot the messenger. So the three things I'm going to take you through, I can only actually remember two of them because I put this together like 5 days ago, so what can I do? So the first bit is to look at what a tough market is. The second bit is the customer funnel. The third bit is something like the number of orders that you get or something like that. But it'll all come back to me when we get there. Unless someone else wants to present that bit, that will be fine. So what is a tough market then? And you probably know, I mean, you're not stupid, are you? You've read the news, you know what's going on. It is a bit of a difficult period out there, but it looks a little bit like this. So this is showing you the growth in online sales. And by the way, when I say online sales, it's anybody who sells, any retailer that sells online. So there's online only, but there's also multi-channel retailers in there, but we only track their online sales. So there's no high street stuff in this. And what you're looking at here is 15 months, and the baseline is that dotted one you see there. So most of the time it's been in negative growth. Now, if I took this back further into 2020 and early 2021, you had the pandemic, massive online boom, and then since then it's been in decline. So this is split out by week. If I split it out by month, then it's actually been in decline for 26 months in a row. So it's a very, very difficult market that we're operating in. And that little red box is just showing you the latest week of data that we had against the same week last year. So it's negative on negative, right? So it's shrinking. This is traffic, though. I'm conscious that I am a very miserable person, and when I come and present this stuff, it's always like bad news. But again, it's not really my fault. But this is kind of a little bit of good news here. So what people seem to be saying at the moment is that traffic and sort of browsing time and stuff is actually doing okay. There's a little bit of growth in traffic. So this is traffic to online sites across that same period. And look, it's just kind of jumped up into positive, whereas actually in 2023, we've found it quite hard so far to find any positive growth. It's actually just changed around a little bit. So there's a bit more browsing going on. It's just that the conversion isn't playing ball. So this is conversion rate for a bunch of categories. So you've got clothing, electrical, gifts, health and beauty, home and garden, and sport and outdoors is quite a new one for us, so we've only got that bit there. But this is 2021, 2022, 2023. And basically what's happened is those lines have gone down and they've kind of stayed down, right? I figure I won't dwell too much on this. I figure you probably know that in your own business. But some interesting little things to point out is that home and garden and clothing have gone down, down, down. Whereas something like gifts has actually arrested the decline a little bit, though the year-on-year decline in revenue is still quite profound for that category. Electricals has just had a little bit of a jump up. We think that fans and things have been selling pretty well in June when we had the heat wave and stuff. Health and beauty is actually doing okay as well. Seems to be a bit recession-proof, that category. But on the whole, conversion has gone down, and then it's just stayed down, and that's a cost of living thing. This is just a slightly different way of looking at that, so we can filter the data in lots of different ways. This is showing you budget retailers, mid-market and premium, and it's comparing 4 Junes, right? So 2021, 2022, 2023, what has happened to that conversion? And budget across that time, against the flow of the market, has actually ticked up a little bit. Whereas premium, which is that purple one there, has well and truly gone down. So if you want to, you know, it kind of reinforces what you kind of figured would be the case, but that shows it in clear daylight. Now, again, I've just been really miserable, but I'm just going to show you something to prove to you that it's actually not that bad. So this is what we did at the start of the year. We did a forecast. So this was 2022 growth. That's what happened, right? So it's pretty negative for most of the year. There's some lockdown affected stuff there. That's why it's really, really negative. And then we did a sort of 3-prong forecast for the year. So green would be what happens with the line if things go quite well. Yellow would be in line of expectation. And red would be if it goes quite badly. And then that blue line that we just added there is actually how things have gone, right? So what you'll notice is it's kind of closer to the green one than it is to the red one. So while everything's very difficult and the news is terrible and all that sort of stuff, we've had our period of incredible instability. Actually, things are sort of ticking along at the moment in the direction that you might hope they would. And what it means is by the time we get to the back end of the year, we might just have some positive growth to report finally. This is how it looks for the categories, by the way, split out. So the blue bar that you see there is the forecast and the yellow bar is year to date. So what that means is January to June against January to June last year. So 6 months of the year, how's it tracking? And some of them are quite way off, but we've still got 6 months to go, and actually we think that they'll balance out for a number of reasons. But clothing's had a shocker, really, this year so far. But the weather was really rubbish until we got to June. That's a big factor in clothing. Health and beauty's doing a lot better. Gifts is kind of where it should be, really. Electrical's done a little bit better as well. Anyway, that's that. This is the customer funnel then. This is to give you a few metrics that you can sort of benchmark yourself against and see, you know, maybe not be quite as miserable as perhaps you were before you came in. So the customer funnel is 4 stages across a website. There's loads of customer funnels. This is just how we sort of define it. There's 4 different stages on a website. There's obviously more, where someone has to make a decision and they have to press something. And that's what we track here. So the percentage that view a product page, which is your green line there, and this is looking across 3 years split out by quarter. Add to basket rate, which is the yellow one, so they've added something to their basket. Proceeding to checkout, so having put it in their basket, they make it to the checkout, that's your blue one, and then completing at the checkout is the red one, right? So they've made it to the checkout and I've pressed buy now, I've placed my order. You need to sort of squint slightly, but across that period, there's not a great deal that's really gone on. Those lines are fairly flat when you look at it like that. So of all the stuff that you do, does it actually make any difference? But here, what we've got is 1 year of pre-cost of living crisis, which kicked in roughly around Q1, Q2 2022, and then 1 year that's kind of post that, right? And the difference actually there, if you look at the top 3 lines, there's not a great deal to say about it, but the bottom one there is. So the add to basket rate is the point at which the conversion is in trouble. That's where the plummets have really been. So people are not adding stuff to their basket as much as they were. The pandemic didn't do a massive amount to that metric, but the cost of living stuff most definitely has. And just to bring you sort of bang up to date, this is Q1 of 2023. And Q1, by the way, is February to April in our classification. So this is just giving you some metrics for those measures, right? So view a product page, about 57% do that. 13% add to basket, that's come down from sort of 17, 18% typically. 45% go to checkout, and 58% actually complete at the checkout. But you can look at it in a slightly different way, right? Those are averages that you're looking at there, so you might like to... does anyone want to take a picture of that, by the way? Do I need to go back? Want to take a picture? This is viewing a product page across that period, right? So if you remember that, I think it was green line. This is kind of what it looks like, right? So if you imagine all the tumult that's gone on in the last 3 years, nothing really has happened to that metric. But if you split it out into individual retailers, so you're looking at the same thing here, but you're seeing, so there's about 50 retailers that give us this data every week. We've got about 200 that give us the sales figures every week. And this is showing you across that 3-year period. So each one of those dots is the same retailer, right? The same color dot is the same retailer across that period. And the thing to take from it is that they were sort of bunched up a little bit if you go back 3 years. There wasn't too many outliers. And then what's happened as we've moved into the cost of living period is they have sort of spread out a little bit more. So although the average, the benchmark, hasn't really changed, actually there has been some stuff going on underneath the surface. So it doesn't mean that you should not ever bother trying to improve people getting, adding something to, no, this is the product page one, isn't it? If you're in a product page, you should absolutely do it because you can influence stuff. Adding something to their basket, so this is what's happened to that. So like I said, it was sort of 17, 18, 19%, and it really has collapsed over that kind of period. So look what's happened as you get into the cost of living period. Just the lowest by some distance are adding something to their basket. So traffic's doing okay, but that is really your crux problem there. Now you can optimize it all you like, of course, but it's a demand problem, it's a confidence problem. People are just a little bit more hard up. So that's kind of where that is. And again, we can split this out in the same way that we just did. So this is showing you the individual retailers that make up that average there. And you've got the sort of reverse that had happened in the last one, right? So they're sort of more spread out when we go back in time a little bit. And then you can see where the sort of point of collapse happened, right? And it is that Q2 2022 point where there was quite a few that were above that point, and they've all just sort of fallen down. So it tells you that there is an industry sort of wide problem there where people are just saying, I'm going to take my time a little bit more in making a decision to add something to my basket. Yes, so that's that. And now this is the bit that I couldn't quite remember, and it's all coming back to me now. So this is, are your customers staying with you as long as they should, which is quite an important question, isn't it? So this one is slightly complicated, but I'll try and explain it to you. So what we're going to look at here is the type of customer that we looked at for this study. So there's 3 different types of customer that we were looking at. The first one is it's a new customer with you, right? So there was a group of retailers, about 40 of them or so, who gave us, who participated in this particular study because we have to get specific metrics out of them in order to do it. And a new customer is identified as they didn't buy from you in 2020 or earlier, they didn't buy from you in 2021, but they did in 2022. Existing customer was they bought from you in 2021 and they bought from you in 2022, right? So you're kind of a repeat customer. A reactivated customer is someone who bought from you in 2020 or earlier than that. They didn't do it in 2021, but then they did in 2022. Okay, those are our 3 cohorts that we're sort of working with here. And then we looked at the average order share across those 3 cohorts, right? So what percentage of orders do each of these account for? And these are the numbers. You can take a picture of that, perhaps, if you want to as well. So new customer one is pretty high. 48% of orders came from new customers, 42% from existing customers, and 10% from reactivated customers. So that, I don't know if that surprises you. Maybe that's kind of as you might expect. We could split this out individually. So we took 25 retailers for this little bit that we did here, and we looked at the new customer rate. So the green one is what happened in 2021. So I mentioned that it was in 2022, it was 48% or something, didn't I just now? So, but this is what it looks like when you split out by individual retailers. So some have got substantially lower than that, some have got quite a lot higher than that, right? So an average is something that I'm trying to say in this presentation. And then 2022 is what happened a year later. And really, I think if you're being totally honest, there's not a great deal of difference between those 2 things, right? So there isn't a massive amount of difference in the number of new customers that these retailers were getting in that period. There's a few where there's a little bit of a gap, some a bit less, some a bit high, but most of them are very much in line. So it's more difficult to get new customers. But they're actually in a certain order here. So these ones are clothing, these ones are health and beauty, these ones are home and garden, and these ones are other. So other is like sports and outdoor or beers, wines and spirits or something like that. So interesting really when you put it like that, isn't it? That the clothing ones are actually a little bit lower than the other ones. Maybe that tells you something about people's loyalty to brands, which we talk about all the time these days, saying no one's got any bloody loyalty to these days. That's the problem. Don't know, is it? So what it means is the average difference between them was just 2% between those 2 years, 2021 and 2022. Now this is looking at the frequency of purchase, right? So for each of those cohorts, how often did those customers actually buy something from you? And this is calculated as a total number of orders divided by the total number of customers per customer segment, right? So a reasonably easy bit of mathematics there. And these are the figures. So it'll give you the average order frequency, i.e. how often those people purchase from you in 2021, and then the same metric for 2022. And these are those metrics here. So 1.32 turned into 1.27, 2.77 turned into 2.61, 1.6 turned into 1.48. So all three of them went down. So if you think about that conversion being under duress, it's actually true across all three types of customer that we looked at here. But isn't it wonderful having an existing customer? Look how many orders you get from them versus the other things. So that's a really nice thing to have with a bit of retention. Now, this is the fun bit because it's a real memory test for me and my memory's crap. So it's going to go really badly. This is a grid. So what we're looking at here is particularly looking at the product page and the sort of functionality that you can use on a product page in order to try and boost conversion. So the first one is, have you got reviews on that page, right? Or is there like a star review on there? That's going to be the first one. The second one is, can you put images into a review? So you post an image into a review. That's that one there. This one is, do you offer buy now, pay later? And can they see that on the product page? So you can see Klarna there and PayPal, for example. This one is, do you show the delivery in the product page? So delivery shown. This one is, do you offer a form of free delivery? And do you promote that on the product page? So that is that one there. This one is going to be wish list. It is wish list. So you can add something to your wish list. And this one is not on the product page, but on the product listing page. So do you allow people to add something to the basket without actually getting into the product page? That's that one there. What would that one be? Showing returns. That's showing returns. This one is, do you offer free returns? It's free returns, yeah. You'd think I'd rehearse or something, wouldn't you? No. This one is it's in stock indicator. It's the in stock indicator. So it tells you how many of them there are. This one is FAQs, right? So is there a list of questions that people can interrogate? And this one is urgency messaging, a real bugbear, bestseller. 15 of these bought in the last 24 hours. You might have seen, but someone got their backside kicked about a month ago, one of the home and garden retailers. No, sorry, a home retailer for basically lying about how urgent everything was on their website. So what we're going to do here is line a load of retailers up. So you have to imagine that each one of those heads is a retailer. Okay, so what we did here is we went and looked at their websites and then we got some metrics from them so we could see, is having these things good or bad? And they're lined up in ranking order, and that is just telling you what category they're in. So it's pretty obvious, really. A house is home and garden, a top is clothing, heart is health and beauty, a star is multi-category. And that is the add to basket rate for those retailers, right? So if you're 20 or so, 20%, you're really good. But there are some that are sort of 6, 7%, which is really incredibly low, isn't it, for adding to basket. And then what we did is all those things that I just showed you there, all those functionality that you can add, we just decided to look at whether they actually offer them or not, right? And if they've got a little sticker underneath each of those things, and it means that they do offer that functionality. So you can see how it's kind of playing out, and you sort of need to focus your eyes in a little bit on it. But I'm going to help you to do that bit. Everyone got a picture? And then I'm going to show you whether it's good or not, right? So basically, if you put these into grids, so if you split them into 4 groups of 8, there's something quite interesting that happens. So there's more gaps down that side, right? So in that little gap there are 40 features and functionalities. There's 54 there, and 60 in the top 2. So what it's telling you is that generally speaking, the people who have a higher add to basket rate seem to have more features and functionality that they offer on their website, right? So there's more things that you can do, more things you can check, more information you get, more things you can look at that might be worth experimenting with. Now this is a really fun slide, and it might well, this will make you feel better, okay? It definitely will. Most of what I've said probably makes you feel quite bad. Sorry about that. But this bit will make you feel good. So is anybody actually any good at this stuff? Same thing applies here, right? There's a load of retailers lined up there. That's their sort of ranking. So one is top, you're the best at it. 35 is you're the worst at it in this group here. And what we're going to do is show you where each of these retailers are, anonymously, obviously, in this list. So each one of those coloured dots, or what would you call that, bi-coloured dots, pattern dots, not an artist. Each one of those dots is going to be the same one that we're going to cascade through, okay? So that's where they all line up. So for example, blue is our very best one, and the pink aqua, little help, is the worst one, right? And then we're going to show you where they go when you add to basket, right? So first of all, we'll take our little blue one, which is our absolute best performer with viewing a product page. So they get the highest rate of people viewing product pages on their website. And when we move it down, that's where they go. So add to basket, they go down to 9th place. They're not quite as good. Proceed to checkout, they're terrible, right? They're really far down. And then they sort of do pretty well on complete payment, okay? So 3 stages, pretty good. One of them really quite bad. The red one is the next one. So red one is very, very good at getting people to view a product page, and then they really go into sort of mediocre land with the rest of it, right? So not so great once they've got them on there. Yellow is our next one. So yellow is really good at product page, terrible add to basket, terrible at proceed to checkout, and then amazing at completing payment. Sort of ramming this point home here, but then the green one is also very good at that, and then, you know, the slalom happens, right? So the slalom happens a lot with these coloured dots, okay? And if you just fill the lot in like that, you'll see that there isn't any sort of linear pattern to this, so it isn't the case that everybody is down this side or down that side, right? Absolutely everybody is good at some things and rubbish at something else. So don't feel too bad if you are sort of, unless you should feel bad if you're all the way down here on all 4 of them. You absolutely should. But if you're not, then you know, you could go back and say, do you know what, we're actually not as rubbish as some people maybe, as you always tell me I am, boss. You could go back and definitely say that, okay? Any more pictures for this one? And I think that's probably enough, isn't it? So thank you, ladies and gentlemen.